Welcome to Business Success Tips, where you learn to make more money in less time and have a lot more fun. I'm Paul Sanneman, your host. I'm founder of Contractor Staffing Source, and we have as a guest today Bundle. Now, Bundle, I'm getting my glass on, see your name here. It's Janna. How do you pronounce it? Is Colucci? Is that right?
Yeah, Janna Colucci. That's right.
Janna Colucci. Okay, we're good. So Janna, tell me a little backstory. What does Bundle do?
Yeah, so Bundle is a digital procurement platform that makes it easier to buy, sell, and manage construction materials. But what that really means is that we typically act as your outsourced purchasing team. We cater specifically to small and medium residential contractors or builders. And we basically plug in with our software, but also service model to get you anything you need materials wise for any of the projects that you're working on. I know that can be a little bit high level, so just to tell you a little bit more what that means, that
Right.
can mean anything from you come to us, you send us a bill of materials or a list of what you need for a project. That gets bid out in real time from both our suppliers and yours in our system. That's instead of the typical process of calling, emailing, sometimes faxing all those vendors. You get all that information purchased through our system. So all of that is happening in one place, single PO if you want it to, with lots of vendors on the back end. And then you can track everything through our system as well. So really making that materials purchasing process happen at 10x speed, if not faster. But also we have some kind of buying group dynamics getting at our name Bundle, where we basically bring together smaller or medium builders or projects and give you that buying power, basically bundling you together to get you access further up the supply chain.
So let's say I'm building a house, okay?
Mhm.
And I only need stuff for that house, but do I have to buy extra stuff like more drywall or more lumber, whatever, to get a good deal? Or you'll just say, here is a material package for the, like I normally send it to my lumberyard or somebody and say, okay, and they quote my on the drywall and lumber and all that kind of stuff. And then they deliver it. So would you send it to my lumberyard or your suppliers? How does that all work?
Yeah, either way. So you can onboard any of the suppliers you like, love, want to keep working with into our system if we're not already working with them. But you can also come to Bundle and say, I don't have any suppliers. Maybe I've just been going to Home Depot. I don't even have a pro relationship with them. And any of our suppliers that we've already onboarded and brought into our system will quote that out for you. So in the case of lumber, we think of that as a custom product, if you will, and that you'd upload plans or your takeoff and our vendors would come back to you with that takeoff and then actual quotes specifically for your job. But also, if you need things like faucets, appliances, more standard kind of manufacturer model number products, you'll actually get that data through our system in real time. So it's as if you're shopping on an e-commerce site, but you're getting numerous bids for everything that you're looking at.
Sounds like Amazon for builders. Just kidding.
Yeah, totally. We think Amazon for builders, a little bit of kind of an Expedia or like
Right.
booking.com for builders as well, where you can come to one single place and get all that information at once.
Now, what about like say shipping? Let's say I've got a local lumber yard that's willing to, say my lumber package is $100,000.
Yep.
And and they'll deliver it for free. But somebody else who's maybe, 100 miles away will give it to me for, $80,000, but they have to deliver it. Do you deal with those kind of issues?
Yep. And you can see all of that broken down in our system. And so every single line item that you have, so every single item that you have in a bill of materials, you're able to view a detailed quote from each of those vendors for. So you can see, quick unit pricing, again, if it's a really simple product, or if it's more of a custom lumber package, for example, you're able to see what the price is for the materials, but then also delivery costs, any additional fees, costs. You can see lead times in real time as well. And this is real time in the sense that we're tapped into now hundreds of different manufacturer and distributor systems. And so you're getting that data not only on price, but also lead time, availability, inventory coming directly from the source to give you that best information or
Okay.
most accurate information.
Now, I got to ask, what about, Home Depot and Lowe's? Are those in your list of people?
They are. So the biggest use case with some of them is that we often see builders or their homeowner customers choosing Home Depot or Lowe's exclusive products. And so we don't say you can't get that. In fact, the bundle way of thinking is much more you can get anything through us. We are your purchasing team. Just send it to us. And if we don't have a supplier for it, we'll set that up and it'll be even easier the next time you come to buy it.
Mhm.
But we actually have direct feeds from a lot of those major big box stores where we're showing you all the time what that pricing is, same as if you went on their website to see what that looks like. And so we're pulling that retail pricing, which can actually be a really easy benchmark for our builders to understand what their homeowners may be going to those websites or going to the store even to see. That was a
Mhm.
big shift during COVID. We started to see more homeowners want to be involved in the process of just like long lead time items, or we think we can get better pricing on our own. Here's our Lowe's quote that
I
we got.
mean, that, because what happened is with Amazon, it sort of went to heck, if you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah,
oh, I can get that, that washer from Amazon for X or that faucet or whatever. So people went online and started doing their own online shopping. And then the builder had to compete with their online shopping. And sometimes they get crazy deals online and they go, oh, well, I can get that faucet from Amazon for, $100. You would charge me $200, right?
exactly. Exactly. And so we give you that data point to compare any of your pricing to. And in a lot of cases, it's homeowners comparing their retail pricing, even if they've gotten some sort of discount, that doesn't usually compare to the pro price or, sort of the up the supply chain, more either direct manufacturer pricing or wholesale pricing. And so what we basically do is empower builders to get that better pricing again by using our volume buying power. And then they can actually present that to their homeowners through the system with the markup that they want to show. But be able to have an informed way of doing that because they have those data points, even coming from those major big box stores as well.
It sounds like you're an AI purchasing agent.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit of that too. We kind of think of ourselves as sitting on top of all of this infrastructure and suppliers and kind of all the things that happen in the procurement world. But one of the reasons I started the business was I came from the commercial construction side of things, and it was just painful getting through the procurement process, especially when, every single item you're calling, emailing, faxing all these suppliers to get pricing lead times, on quotes that are good for
And no
7 days.
offense, suppliers have been known to lie.
That another issue, but then you got to call them all again anyway to figure out actually ordering, credit terms, all of that, and then again to figure out delivery. And so, there's many parts of the process where things can go wrong, delay your project, make things more expensive, all of that.
Now, do you do things even like cabinets and that kind of stuff?
We do. So cabinets typically, there's some exceptions to this of sort of a total RTA type cabinet offering, but typically we think of cabinets as another custom package. So lumber, cabinets, windows and doors, we often bucket into this
So
custom.
you're sort of down the CSI codes and you say, okay, these are this, right? That kind of thing, right?
Yep, exactly.
Now, how do you integrate with software like whether it's JobTread or Buildertrend or Procore or something? Because a lot of those have estimating, or Bluebeam. They have estimating packages that integrate. And do you send does your system integrate with that or not?
Yeah, the way that we've handled is we've actually built tooling that can talk to a lot of those different systems. Essentially, the input that comes from any traditional project management system is your bill of materials. If you've made selections, gone through the options process with your homeowner there, you can feed that right into our system, and our system basically does a matching process and pulls that all in. So it makes that super easy for you. We actually also have an option selections tool. So we actually see a lot of our smaller customers who may not even use a more formal project management tool or kind of piecemeal tools. They can actually do some of that through our system. The other major piece that comes in is schedule. There's a lot, obviously, that ties into when you're ordering things, when you need things to arrive that relate to your schedule. And so with that, that's the other piece that we basically pulled that scheduling data from those different systems into our system. And then on the back end, because you're doing any of your materials purchasing through bundle, you're getting an invoice from our system that can then be fed back into any of those systems or QuickBooks Online. Any of those, it's a really streamlined experience because you are narrowing down how many suppliers you're working with to just everything flowing through one system with a
Mhm.
single type of invoice. Again, single PO with a lot of vendors on the back end, which really
Now, what
makes it.
about payments? I mean, what do you, I mean, they buy 100,000 of stuff. How do they pay the vendors?
You actually pay everything through us. So we become your single vendor in that regard. We take anything, obviously, ACH credit card, but we also work with a credit partner and can extend you credit terms the same way you would get from your local supplier. And then just navigating that with us. You're not needing to worry about communicating with any of those different suppliers for payments or setting up payment terms or tracking what those are with all those different vendors.
Basically, you take all the money, well, they give you the money, you pay the suppliers, you buy the stuff, you get it back to them. Now, what about adjustments like, let's say they're late on a payment, or let's say the weather changes, you don't need the lumber for another 3 weeks or subcontract. I mean, everything is in flux, it's building, right? Nothing ever goes away. It's planned or what costs what it's supposed to cost ever, right? So
Yep.
how does your system make adjustments? Let's say it rained or the concrete's late or pick one and the lumber package, you don't want a lumber package, no place to put it or no place to put the windows. So how do you deal with changes in schedule?
Yeah, definitely. Comes up all the time. So I think this is a big piece of why in this space we don't see software as a standalone tool ever being able to completely take over. There's a lot we can do with it, and AI is making it more intelligent, and as well as other tooling and advancements on the innovation side. But a couple different ways that you can address that. One, even though all payments and bidding and all of that is happening through our system, you still have a direct line of communication to any of those vendors. And so you can come in at any point and message them directly, which is what we often see. Project's been delayed by 2 weeks. Can you hold the windows? Where are they? That sort of thing. And that can all happen either through our mobile app, through the system itself. The other thing that we see happen quite often is that we provide any of our customers with a project manager from the bundle team. And essentially, this is someone that our customers can call, email, text at any moment in time to provide that information. Shoot, I'm on the job site. This is what's happened. Like, help kind of in crisis mode. And that project manager can step in, coordinate with vendors, see what can be done. If there's another challenge that arises that we need to figure out a solution to, maybe something arrives damaged and they need to figure out, we need to turn over this home in a week. Like, what are we doing here? That person on our team is usually able to jump in and help solve that problem pretty quickly. And that's sort of where we see our software plus service model really come into action in a big way.
And so how much do you charge for what you do? What is your business model?
Yeah. So in some ways we act like a supplier. So in a big way, we work with our suppliers on the back end to sort of think about business model generally. We like to think of our business model that way as taking a cut of the savings that we're passing through to our builders. So there's a little bit of the kind of we profit when you profit. General line of thinking. We do also charge a monthly or annual subscription fee, which really kind of gets you into sort of the buying group, if you will, if you're thinking of bundled that way, is getting you access into some of these kind of more deeper supply chain relationships.
Now, does that depend on your volume or how's that subscription work?
Yeah, it can depend on volume. Our standard is typically about $3.99 a month. And that's to get you access to software plus the project manager. And that's also good for any number of people on your team. So that's typically at a company level. There's some different exceptions to that, whether you're bigger or smaller, or sort of how much volume you're doing. But that's the typical.
So it's $100 a month, and then you get the project manager and the buying. And I'm going to ask you you probably answered the question, but I'll give it a shot. Let's say a guy is buying, just making $1 million a year of materials. That's really a small guy. If he's buying $1 million a year of materials, and he's buying at Home Depot and Lowe's or his local guy, do you think you can save him any money or it's just convenience?
Yeah, for sure. We typically see that we can save 10 to 20% across a project. Our bread and butter is in the finishes space. So a lot of that would probably be coming from finishes. That's largely because if you think about purely
Well, the
commoditized.
markups on faucets are insane, right? I mean, like crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of that is where we can use that buying power to get you much better than pro pricing in a lot of cases. And so we kind of look at it at a project level, and that's where we typically are seeing 10 to 20% cost savings.
So my guess is on lumber it's 2, but on faucets it's 40.
Yeah, and 40 is maybe a little high, but yes, close,
But
close.
I mean, I know like if you're gonna buy a waterworks faucet, it's like $800 for a faucet. I mean, there's got to be margin in there someplace, right?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I would say the biggest, we did a customer survey towards the end of last year, and while cost savings is definitely a piece of it, right? Like you're not going to come through our system and be paying more for materials is typically what we hear. I would say the bigger value is on more of the workflow side of things. One of the things we hear for smaller builders is that procurement is not necessarily a full-time job all year. And so you're kind of needing to ramp up and down this procurement service as your projects are kind of ebbing and flowing. And even if you're not doing that, maybe you have 10 projects moving at a time, you may not want to be growing a very large purchasing team, which is what a bigger builder would do.
We were recruiting, and some people, they're just too small for purchasing agent. I mean, and so
100.
it goes to the office manager or the owner or somebody, and they go, look at, you're going to do the purchasing.
Yep.
And it becomes sort of a pain in the butt. I mean, a difficult thing, like, okay, fine, I'll buy the stuff, right? But
Yeah.
in a company that has under 15 people or 20 people, there's no room for purchasing agent.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And that's what we hear so much. And it's interesting. I was actually just talking to a builder this week about even our subscription fee and thinking of it, like, how do we tie that to a project? And the way we think about it is instead of hiring someone, like look at your overhead in terms of what you would need people costs. And obviously some of that is tied to the number of projects you're doing. We think of ourselves a little bit more as a fractional purchasing agent, if you will.
Yeah, I
And
mean, that makes sense. We're fractional HR department because it's way cheaper to pay us than have an HR person. So it's way less expensive to pay you to handle purchasing than having a purchasing agent. And you probably provide the same level of service as a part-time purchasing agent.
yes, exactly. And then the other great part is because of the software layer, you have the system of record that has everything in it. So past order history, you can duplicate a project if you want and repeat that again. And so there's this element of, we've seen this come up time and time again where turnover may be high, or it doesn't even, maybe it's not that you can't retain someone, maybe there's just ebbs and flows of a team, or
Right.
someone leaves and has been working with you for 30 years. They have all these supplier relationships. Like what happens then? And because you have this system of record that's managing all of that, it's a really seamless, easy transition process. You don't lose any time in that because the next person can pick up right where that
So
other.
what happens is you take your current relationships, I'd assume, because everybody has a girlfriend. They don't have people they always deal with and that kind of stuff, right? And so
Yep.
you can load that into the system.
Yep.
So all those people, you can still buy from the same places, but in a sense, they're forced to compete. So if you're buying with your local lumber guy and supplier, and he's charging a fortune for, I don't know, windows or faucets or something, then you can say, well, look at your lumber package is good, but your hardware is crazy. Like, why am I paying that for Pella windows when I can buy someplace else cheaper, right?
Yep, exactly. And that's often what we see in the onboarding process where someone will say, I love my X, Y, and Z vendor, here are my couple of product categories that I'm great on. And we're like, perfect. Let's keep that relationship strong, bring that person on or bring that vendor on, and then help you in the areas that you think you are weak. And then we've definitely seen some of that same thing. We're definitely not trying to disrupt those relationships, but it's been interesting where, people be like, I got a guy, I've been working with him for 20 years. And that's great, except for if that person has been bumping up their
Well,
percentage
I mean,
to
sure. I mean,
year over
the
year.
lumber is not going to make a difference, but things like windows change all the time. And also
Yep,
windows, if they say, well, you can buy, Anderson windows, it'll take you 6 months to get here. You can buy Pella windows, they're going to get here in a month, but they're twice as expensive, right?
yep,
It happens
100%.
all the time.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
And so you're getting more of an overall view of, is it really 6 months and 2 months, and is it worth the price difference and that kind of stuff, right?
Yep, exactly. And you can get that fast, right? Because in a dream world on a typical project, you're like, okay, I would run that process and have all those options and data available, but that all takes time to get.
Right.
And so often
Right.
that kind of falls by the wayside, um, which can sometimes kind of be baked into the cost of a project, but other times, you can really find opportunity to
But
save.
I mean, obviously delivery is huge these days, and it's going to get, the pandemic took it off the charts, right? Got crazy. And then it's slowly been, but I don't think everyone's got back to normal since the pandemic. It's still pretty crazy.
Yeah. And now,
Because
I
I
mean,
think people
well,
use this as an excuse, right? Once a manufacturer said, wow, I can feed 5 months late and still be in business.
yep,
This is great. Then I can, tell them, oh, it's still difficult, and I can still take a 4 month delivery time and stay in business, right?
definitely. And the latest thing we're seeing now is tariffs, right? Another, post-COVID time challenge of just sort of what's going to happen with some of that. And so a lot of unknowns, both by builders trying to understand what is going to come through and what the impact of those tariffs may be, but also on the supply side, both our distributor partners, our wholesale partners, even some of the manufacturers trying to navigate and figure out what that will exactly look like.
Well, anytime a manufacturer has an excuse to charge more or deliver it less time, they will, more time, they'll probably take it, right? Just what they do.
Yep, definitely. And I think that's an interesting piece of tariffs too, where it's like, all right, if we look at historically how things work with tariffs is that, we're trying to sort of punish things coming from elsewhere, but then
Right.
manufacturers who are domestic will also take advantage of the increase in prices and also bump their prices. And so
Right.
a little bit of a timing game, potentially, at least with projects that
That's
are
true.
going
And
on
most people
back in.
aren't really good at navigating that purchasing side. They just sort of go with the local supplier and say, hey, it's too much of a hassle. This sounds like an awesome service and product. So how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah. You can definitely head to our website. So www.bundle.build. You can also email us hello@bundle.build, or even email me directly, Janna@bundle.build, JANNA.
Great. Well, I've had a lot of podcasts. This is one of the better services I've heard of because I've been doing this for like many years. Purchasing is always an issue, and they don't have full-time purchasing agent unless they're big, and so somebody gets stuck with it, and they do a marginal job. It just is what it is, right? But it's
Mhm.
such contractors don't have the time and energy to hire a person or even overwatch the person who, like the project manager, is doing it in their spare time or the owner's doing it, and it usually isn't done very well.
Mhm.
Cool. Well, that's a great idea. So if anybody listens to this podcast, if you're buying stuff, you should call Jan.
Love it. And thanks for having us. This has been
Okay, I
great.
appreciate you being here. Thanks a lot, Shannon.